Morgan Job here. Thanks again for tuning into the Easter Story devotional. Today is what's known as Holy Monday. In today's reading, Jesus talks about his kingdom in a parable called the Wedding Feast. This is found in the book of Matthew chapter 22 verses 1 through 14. It says, Jesus spoke to them again in parables, saying, "The kingdom of heaven is like a king who prepared a wedding banquet for his son. He sent his servants to those who had been invited to the banquet to tell them to come, but they refused to come. Then he sent some more servants and said, 'Tell those who have been invited that I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and fatted calf have been butchered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding banquet.' But they paid no attention and went off, one to his field, another to his business. The rest seized his servants, mistreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged. He sent his army and destroyed those murderers and burned the city. Then he said to his servants, 'The wedding banquet is ready, but those I invited did not deserve to come. So go to the street corners and invite to the banquet anyone you find.' So the servants went out into the streets and gathered all the people they could find, the bad as well as the good, and the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to see the guests, he noticed a man there who was not wearing wedding clothes. He asked, 'How did you get in here without wedding clothes, friend?' The man was speechless. Then the king told the attendants, 'Tie him hand and foot and throw him outside into the darkness where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are invited, but few are chosen.'" In this story, Jesus spoke in parables. A parable is a story that teaches a lesson. Jesus is saying that all people are invited into God's kingdom, but few people actually choose it. They don't believe in Jesus. After all, in John 14:6, Jesus says that he is the only way to God. No one can come to God if they do not know or believe in Jesus. People are prideful and stubborn. They do not like to trust in something they do not see or do not know anything about. Even worse, some people can refuse to believe in Jesus because of all the appeals of the world. We struggle with this all the time. We are required by Jesus not to love anything of this world. Yes, we are in this world, but it is not our home. As Moses said in the Old Testament, "I have become a foreigner in a foreign land." That's what we are, foreigners. We are simply on earth to glorify the God who created us. The book of Romans chapter 12 verse 2 says, "Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." Let us focus our minds on Christ and who he is and what he ultimately did for us. The book of 1 Timothy chapter 6 verses 9 and 10 say, "Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And in their eagerness to be rich, some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pains." Verse 7 states that we can't take anything out of this world. Verses 9 and 10 state that money can cause all kinds of evils, and it can snatch people away from the faith, which leads to a painful destruction. Everything of this earth, sin, lust, money, power, video games, television shows, etc., will eventually pass away. But whoever follows God and obeys his word will indeed live forever with him. The book of Mark chapter 8 verse 36 says, "For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit his soul?" This verse is telling us that if we treasure our earthly lives, we'll end up losing our life with Christ at the end of our time here on earth. We will inevitably lose our souls. However, if we love God and his word more than our earthly lives, we will save our souls from eternal damnation. That is, being separated from God when we die. The book of Titus chapter 3 verse 7 tells us that it is by God's grace and mercy that we are saved, not by our own deeds. This just re-emphasizes what Jesus said, that he is the only way to God. We cannot be saved based on our own merit. It is impossible. If we try to be good and humble, we will fail at some point every time. But thank God for his grace and mercy. All scripture in this devotional is taken out of the New International Version of the Bible. The Biblical Easter Story devotional is copyrighted March 2021 by Morgan Job. The background music for this segment is provided with paid license by audiojungle.net and audioblocks.com. So go to the street corners and invite out to the banquet. Anyone you find. But when the king came in to see the guests, for everything in the world, the book of 1 Timothy chapter 6 verses 9 and 10. The book of 1 Timothy chapter 6 verses 9 and 10 say. The book of Titus chapter 3 verse 7